France were pre-tournament favorites with the United States, obviously, the best-ranked female soccer nation in the world. The U.S. beat Thailand yesterday, in case you haven't heard, 13-0.
13-0.
Created a stir across the soccer world and really the sports world and social media, not because of the scoreline necessarily, but because of the way they celebrated the goals towards the end of the blowout. Tim, I got a very brief crack at this yesterday at the end of the show. Your turn, as we see these pictures from yesterday, your thoughts on the celebrations that caused such a stir. Was it too much? Your take on all this.
Before I give you my take, why don't I give you her take? The woman who scored 5 goals in this game, who is maybe the best soccer player in the world of women's soccer. Here's Alex Morgan on the celebrations.
It's disrespectful if we don't show up and give our best and play our game for 90 minutes. It's disrespectful to the Thai team, and I believe they wanted us to play them straight up. And for the celebrations, these are goals that we have dreamt of our entire life. I mean, I'm going to celebrate Mal Pugh's goal. I'm going to celebrate Sam Ewis and Roosevelt. This is their first World Cup, and I'm so proud of them. And so and I couldn't have dreamt of scoring 5 goals in a World Cup. So it's incredible for us all, and I'm happy just ignoring those comments.
All right, so that's the take of the 5-time goal scorer and what was a record margin of victory in any World Cup. Here's a take of the woman who holds the all-time scoring record, Abby Wambach of the United States as well, who weighed in on Twitter saying, for all those who have an issue with many goals, for some players this is their first World Cup goal and they should be excited. Imagine it being you out there. This is your dream of playing and scoring in a World Cup. Celebrate. Would you tell a men's team not to score or celebrate? Anyone who was worried, and this came from the United States broadcasters and not the broadcasters in this country and not on social media, though some took exception to it. Anyone who thought that running up the score was ridiculous has lost the plot. Goal differential matters in this tournament. There's a team in their group that people are worried about, that the United States might be a little bit worried about. So anyone who was worried about the number being 13 or 14 or 10 has lost the plot, right? And it's also fair to say that the referee may have lost the plot a little bit too, because you and I were watching this game, and there were appeals that would have been considered had that game been close.
Appeals, Tim, there were 7 penalties not called against Thailand.
Right.
7. Like, the ref did her absolute
Laura
best.
Fortunato of Argentina.
Laura tried to keep the scoreline respectable. One side wasn't helping.
Right. So to you and to me, dare I say, this wasn't about the score, right?
It's never been about the score.
It was about people celebrating goals when the game was completely and utterly out of reach. And if you think it's about women and men wouldn't get this, then you probably don't live in Canada or are even anywhere near old school, because you probably would have never watched Don Cherry in your life. He regularly berates professional hockey players who happen to be men for, 1, running up the score, and 2, over celebrating. So it's not just women who get the celebrate. Like, I understand why you might be upset. I am a guy who lives in the old school. I believe that there is a time and a place, but I also believe if you do something really, really well, you can celebrate it. And the United States did something really, really well and celebrated it. Once you get to 8 or 9 or 10, doesn't some compassion for the team that did all of the same things that you did to get onto that stage? Like, I get it. You sacrificed parties. You sacrificed your childhood in many cases. You sacrificed hanging out with friends to get to this stage, and you want to celebrate. I get that. So did the Thai team, right? And in that moment, the bigger person is able to have a tiny bit of compassion for the other team being embarrassed.
Right.
And listen, Paul Brown once said, when you win, say nothing. When you lose, say less. And I know it might be old school, but for me, who was raised in the athletic church of Barry Sanders, who said, act like you've been there before, who was raised in the athletic church of Jim Brown, who was, act like you've been there before, I would hope once you got to 10, you could act like you've been there before.
Yeah, they didn't act like they've been there before. Diana Matheson has 203 appearances for Canada, Tim. Caitlin Call, 101. Claire Rustad, 45. I agree with each and every one of them. This was one of the biggest jokes I have seen in a long time. And any American pundit, or I don't care who you are, who thinks the conversation was about driving up the score, I question your intelligence.
Right.
This was clearly not about that. And anyone who wants to make it about that is a flat-out homer, and I got no time for you.
Right.
That American team's going to get what's coming to them. They choked out in Brazil in Rio at the Olympics. There was a reason for that. There's a lot of good teams at this tournament, and karma will come around and get them. And I support every Canadian analyst who had to go at this team because it was warranted. By the way, Alex Morgan has scored 106 goals in his career, or in her career, pardon me. 106 goals. 106 goals. And is counting the goals against Thailand. 106.
All right.
Oh, when they lose, I'm going to enjoy this so much.